So, ladies and gentlemen, if I could ask everyone to take their seats, we shall begin the afternoon session. As we've brought forward the start of this session to 1:30, our first speaker, Mauro Giacca, hasn't yet arrived. I don't know if when the rest of you were at school it was the same for you, but the last person to arrive at school was always the one who lived closest. And as Mauro has his office just across the way, he logically thought he could turn up about 5 minutes before he was due to speak. Unfortunately, we're starting this session half an hour early, so it'll be 25 minutes late. But that's not his fault, it's our fault, because we didn't let him know that we brought things forward. But very simply, what I propose to do in terms of this session is to just start with our second speaker, move through the program, and then we'll add Mauro when he arrives. So it won't alter the whole makeup of the session, but simply the order of the presentations. So, as has happened in other sessions through the day and through the event, we're going to try and make this session as interactive as possible. We'll give a short time to each speaker to make their presentation. We'll keep them short and succinct, and then we'll move on to Q&A, to questions and discussion, and a bit of debate. I invite all of our speakers, as usual, to be informative and provocative. Remembering that this is not a conference in which we all talk about how clever we are, but an event in which we share some experiences and hopefully learn from each other's experiences, including each other's mistakes. I'm the first to hold up my hand and say I have made mistakes. I have also learned a lot from other people's mistakes, which has saved me a lot of time and energy and money for the organizations that I work with. So I'd like to welcome our first speaker, David Pitchman, who is going to move forward in the program and give his presentation, which hopefully is already on the computer here. So the first thing I'll do is open that for you, David, because I know it's already set up, ready to roll. So let me just do that right away. And this is a PDF, isn't it? Yeah. So that's Control L. Yeah, there we go.
Thank you very much.
The floor is yours, David.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for introducing myself. My name is David. I come from the close country of Austria, and I send very warm greetings of the general manager and the founder of this, how Luis has already called it, tool of the Science and Technology Park Lakeside in Carinthia. So you see Austria and the country of Carinthia, and especially the city of Klagenfurt on this beloved picture what's behind my back. Austria, and especially Carinthia, is a well-known country for, let's say, for its beauty of the country, for its beauty of the mountains, and Carinthia especially for the lakes. So many people know it because of that, but not too many people know Austria in terms of research and development. So this is my introduction, because I think how my former speakers, whom I really thank for the inviting words, building something like the theoretical background and some of the circumstances science and technology parks like us have to deal with. I would like to give you some examples and some, let's say, some points what we have understood and what we have already implemented in order to do something for our region. And I would like to say not only the region of Carinthia, but the macro region. So we are living in the triangle of the northern part of Italy and Slovenia and Austria. And I think this gives us a perfect chance to make us a little bit bigger than just within our simple minds. So one of the biggest, I would like to pronounce it as challenges. So one of the biggest challenge of a country like Carinthia, and I bet that there's many of you colleagues in here as well who face the same challenge, is the fact of the brain drain. So that many people do not necessarily stay in the country because it's such a beautiful lake and such a beautiful view what you got here in this nice sunset on this picture, but they tend to go to urbanized centers. And the lack of centers is, of course, a fact in many regions. If, for example, like the region of Carinthia, Carinthia's got 600,000 inhabitants, and it's only got two, let's say, bigger cities, Klagenfurt, the capital of the region, has got 100,000 inhabitants. So compared to the global aspect, we are actually super small. So I think something what we tried to do here, what not only the government but more parties try to do here, is implement this economic strategy to have a place here where you can combine, where you got a platform for education, for research, and for enterprises. And I would like to announce another word. I would not only call it a tool, something like a science park, but I would call it a perspective for a region. What we try to do here with the Lakeside Park is to give the people of the region, of the macro region, a perspective that there is possibilities from within the regions as well, but also like to attract other regions. So the topic and the title what I chose is our claim. Our claim is 1 and 1 is 11. And I would like to say something about, I would like to talk a little bit about the importance of the proximity within such a technology park. So, meaning the proximity of enterprises, education, and research. We have got this vision built next. I would like to skip back to that picture because I can introduce a little bit more. Implemented the technology park 10 years ago. Already existed, and I think this is mainly one of the assets of the region, next to the University of Klagenfurt, the Alpen Adria University, which is on the right side, where you see the big long building. So this university already existed for 40 years with its technical department, and I think it was a big luck that there was just next to it on the left side there was big vacancies and big actually it was a swamp, so there's also a legend about the swamp, but I'll skip this story right now. Nevertheless, this is like what was the setting next to the university to build up a technology park and to have everything within this vicinity, within this 34,000 square meters as it is right now. It should be a place for interdisciplinary research and development. So not only the university with its institutes and with its research and educational departments, but also extra-universitarian researches are needed. So in the park there is already 3 extra-universitarian research institutes. One of them is a small branch of the AIT, the Austrian Institute of Technology, which is the biggest in Austria. But just lately, 2 years ago, you can see it in the back, robotics, human robotics interaction focused technology center, namely the Joanneum Research Robotics, came into the park, and they started with a really bright let's say idea and vision that they really wanted to build their technology department here. They started with 4 people and immediately started to connect with the enterprises, but also, and this is I think the main fact, with the university departments. And if we talk to people from the department, from the robotics department, they say at the beginning, of course, there's the hype, okay, now this is the new research institute and everybody will see it and so on and so forth. But then at the end of the day, what will you possibly do if you want to cooperate and if you want to come up with new ideas and new solutions? So the research leader, let's say, once said to me, sometimes you almost have to lock them inside one room so they can come up. So I mean the researchers and the smart guys, they can come up with normal and new ideas. But sometimes you always have to give them free tools and free spaces. So I think it very well depends on the topic, as was mainly focused before as well. So what is actually happening concerning the operational development? I think Luis said it before as well. A technology park has to have its earnings as well. There is several tenant companies as well, but not necessarily it is about to grow within your meters of square meters and so on. It's about getting new solutions. And this is why the SME companies and the smaller branches of the bigger companies which are in the park right now, they're mainly focused on something new, on cooperation with the technical departments and with the research institutes. Not necessarily they just come here for the image of the park. They come here and try to do new things. But when it comes to proximity, you do not have to only link the entities at the top, at their heads. You have to also think, as a technology park, you have to think, how can I link the people in the park? The base, the very base of the park, because we now got 1,100 employees within the campus of the park and next to 10,000 students. What could you possibly do to attract people for a longer time? Not only just to give them a good working space, but also like that they are really happy to work and live here, that they feel good. I think we have to come up with a more open-minded thinking and have to provide all the daily needs, perhaps, for an employee, that they can come in the very morning and say, okay, I need my pupil, my child, to put to the kindergarten, for example, but I need to do the shopping as well. I need to go to the doctor. I want to do some sports as well. I need my social activities. And if we find answers how you can deal with these needs within your park, I think you try to evolve and come up with new possibilities also for the employees. If we talk to employees from the park, they say, well, sometimes it's just good to go next door, because we've got smoking prohibited in the park, but sometimes it's just good to go next door to the central smoking zone, which is sheltered, and you can easily connect and link with somebody else, but not necessarily on the job, but with social activities. And then new ideas can evolve. New ideas may pop up as well. Of course, the cafeteria and infrastructure like our restaurant helps to connect the people, but sometimes it's the very, very normal things in life which easily connect the people. And I would just skip to our next main perspective. This is the education, because the easiest way of connecting with people, I mean, some of you might know how easy it is to connect with walking your dog outside or just running a simple tour around your house, but it's also another way of connecting very, very easily when you bring your child to the kindergarten. And one of our CEOs of one of the companies has already decided, or has decided, because of the kindergarten, because he has said, well, I had another opportunity, but then my children said, I like it here. Family decision, and he stayed. We have got some 5 kindergartens in the park as well, and we said this is, and it was already mentioned before, we've been very lucky to be one of the participants in the Moscow International conference of the Science Park last week, and it was one of the main topic. Education. We have to think about the next generation already now. We have to think, what could we possibly do to relieve anxiety from technology? If pupils and children already grow up with this absolute normality, that they can invent something, that they can just build something themselves, and you give them the room, you give them the tools, that they can come up with their own solutions. I think we also try our best for helping the next generation as well. So we came up with this educational lab, which is right now being built in the new part of the park. You've seen it in the first picture. This is 1,000 square meters just for education. There's no rental places. It's just for education. There's going to be a department of the pediatrics. Here there's going to be a laboratory for schools who can come inside and take hands-on technology, who can make their own projects and their own inventions and so on. And there will be other facilities as well that the young generation can only come here. Because I think I want to add another T on the already mentioned talent and technology. I want to add The third one, which is tolerance. Sometimes I think we have to come up with tools and the freedomness for the next generations that they can come up with their new things and with their new ideas. I hope that I could already give you a glimpse of the implementations and actions we are trying to do and trying to embody in Lakeside Science and Technology Park. I'm happy for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, David. And I think we'll move on to questions at the end because we'll have a little bit of a debate once we've had the various presentations. So I'm going to ask our next speaker, who is Gordana Danilovic-Grkovic, which I always pronounce very badly, so I apologize for that. But Gordana can share with us some of her experiences of beginning the role of managing a new science park facility in Serbia, in Belgrade. And Gordana, I know that you're able to share with us some of your experiences, both the positive and some of the difficulties that you face, and I know that we've talked about some of those together, so I hope you'll share with us some of the challenges that you face doing this activity in a new context, because it's, I think, much easier to build a building than it is to fill it with innovative companies. So I think it's the first presentation on that list there.
Yes.
Thanks, Claudio. So again, Gordana, I'll ask you to be fairly succinct, 10 or 15 minutes, and that'll leave us some time for discussion at the end as well. Thank you.
Hi, Stephen. Good afternoon. I'm coming from Belgrade. First of all, I would like to thank you for this opportunity to present our Science Technology Park. And I would like to say thank you for this invitation. Stephen, thank you very much. Half of my team is here. This is really important for us, learning and exchanging information and experience with other people. Okay, we have now Science Technology Park in Serbia, in Belgrade. This is first Science Technology Park, unfortunately. You can see that we founded our park last year in partnership between Government of Serbia, Ministry of Science, Ministry of Education, Science and Technology Development, City of Belgrade and the university. We have good support from Swiss government. It was crucial for us. You can see that we have huge complex, in our conditions, about 16,000 square meters. This complex, the construction of this complex started 27 years ago, in 1989, and everything was stopped during the isolation period and next 20 years. Now we have 5 buildings with 16,000 square meters connected with different gangways, etc., etc. Of course, we do everything through innovation, for competitiveness and for technology development. You can see our vision and our mission. I would like to stress our objectives. First of all, development of high-tech sector. It is really important for our country, growth of the existing and creation of new technology companies, employment of young, highly educated people and reducing the brain drain. A lot of young people, unfortunately, leave country yet. Knowledge and technology transfer, of course, and commercialization of innovation, development of innovative products and services with added value, and export growth and strengthening the economic competitive position, and business networking and globalization, of course. This is triangle. Everybody said about this. This is we are in this triangle, but I will try to explain a little bit how to do in the practice in our daily works. What that means in our daily works. Quick question. We started last year, and quick question was how to achieve this vision and these objectives. First of all, we made partnership between institutions. It is not easy in our regions, especially with institutions at different levels, government, city, university. It was our first task. In parallel, we identified a lot of good examples, best international practice. I learned a lot from the benchmark, EU benchmark from 2012 about science technology our region, we have to adjust that model. We have to set up model appropriate to our conditions, appropriate to our potential, use our potential, and we have to carry about obstacles. Capacity building. I think that really most important capacity building. There aren't a lot of people in our countries who understand everything about innovation and who would like set up new organization and fight with administration and etc. etc. It is not easy, and we really have excellent opportunity to learn from Technology Park Ljubljana. Thank you, Istok and Domen. They had a lot of days in our premises, and we worked together, and IRR Science Park, of course. And the most it is macro level, but micro level, but macro level. It is really important awareness. We have to must show results. We know that we have to show results and impacts to our funders, and we have to do very fast. It was our first big crucial question. The second question was how to achieve fast results and show others what science technology park really can do, what is role of science technology park. Based on the government conclusion, CTP Belgrade is intending to growing tech companies and startup companies. In the part of growing tech companies, we had to develop transparent and good, fair model for companies to attract them to come to our technology park. And in that part, we had to start from the zero. It is huge. It is really huge job. There isn't. I think that big issue in our region and big problem. There isn't trust between players. There isn't trust between economy and government, science and economy, organization, and you have to build trust. And first of all, we had to build trust between us, Science Park, like new organization, and companies. Startup programs. When we speak about incubation, startup program, last year we already had developed program at Faculty of Technical Engineering. Namely, 8 years ago, we started the technology incubator in our technical faculties. We had small space. People know that small space, very limited, but our aims was to encourage young people to start their own business. They have great knowledge in technology knowledge, but they don't have any skills in management, marketing, finance, intellectual property rights, negotiation, etc., etc. It was our task. We discovered enormous potential among that young people. And during the years, we have really great results. And you can see our small companies during the years 2008 and 2014, you can increase of employment. You can see increase of employment, increase of income, increase of export. They are startup companies. But you can see that more than 75% of the income come from the export. It is really great result in our conditions. And parallel, we tried from last year develop special model for company, attract growing companies, international and domestic companies. And first of all, our criteria was technology profile, innovation, increase of employment and export. It was our crucial criteria. Priority areas for membership, ICT of course, biomedicine, new materials and nanotechnologies, energy and energy efficiency, environment protection and climate change, agriculture and food. It is according our strategy, science and technology strategy. Services all at one place, of course infrastructure, but infrastructure is not enough. We try to develop special business support services according to company needs. First of all, we know that we have excellent potential in science in Serbia. But there is big gap between science and economy. And first of all, we try to develop a link between companies and science. We try to give companies direct access to knowledge base, access to high educated personnel, young people, access to researchers, access to laboratory equipment. We think that it is most important in our conditions. And other support service, access to finance, of course, financial and legal support, promotion, networking, and internationalization. You can see our role in our key activities: infrastructure, startup and SME support, business-to-business linkages, and process management. People from Technology Park Ljubljana said to us, Domen said, it is not enough to stimulate them to link each other. You have to manage that flow of knowledge and technology between different stakeholders. And we will try, Domen, to do that and develop appropriate service and models. You can see we work only 1 year. We succeed now. In year, we managed to fill more than 50% of our capacities. And we have now in our park 34 companies, some of them startup companies, some of them international growing companies, some of them domestic companies. For example, we have 4 or 5 Italian companies: Dillon Robotics, Megabuild Solution, MHT, Vision Equipment. We have companies from Hong Kong, from Switzerland, from Austria, from Germany. It is really good critical mass now. And more than 350 engineers work now in our companies. And when I mention triangle, institutions, academia, companies, at daily basis, that means that we have to push institutions to recognize innovation like potential, that we have to help, that we have to open university, open academia. We have to help them to make visible the offering. And of course, and first of all, we have to support our companies, to help them, to bring them additional knowledge, to help them to growing fast and be competitive at global level. This is my last slide. Now, last decade, nobody believed in Serbia that it is possible to do that. Last title in our big publication, journalist and TV is Science Technology Park Belgrade like factory of the future. I think that it is really important impact in awareness to show one place, proximity and everything. In our countries, it's really important to show that it is possible. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, Gordana, and I'm sure we'll pick up on some of those themes again. Already, as always happens in these events, when you get intelligent people talking about their own experience, some of the same things start to recur. So the brain drain has already been mentioned a couple of times by our first 2 speakers, and I know it's a problem that's recognized in most of the countries that are represented here today. I'd just like to share with you one observation, that brain drain is always perceived as a one-directional flow, and often people say that the way to stop that is to cut off that flow, stop the flow outward, stop the brains going outside. But brain drain is actually just a reflection of a negative balance of payments. The flow needs to exist, but it needs to be bidirectional. And in an ideal world, the brains coming in are at least as, if not more than, the brains going out. And all of the brains that go out eventually come back, bringing with them new experiences and new competences. So I'd like to pick up on that theme when we go into the debate and discussion, as well as some of the other things that have been touched on. But I'd like to first invite our next speaker, Ishtok, who also a friend and colleague for many years, and representing the Ljubljana Science Park that's already been mentioned by Gordana, because they too, like us, have tried in our small way to help Gordana and her team to grow the Science Park activity in Belgrade. So, Ishtok,
yes,
the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Plesiak. I'm coming from Ljubljana. I was hardly waiting to show to colleagues here that we are the smartest. Okay, you will see. So thank you very much, organizers, for inviting us. Thank you, the audience, for the questions. What I would like to say, the perspective of our... Okay. Of our talk today is the campus, the importance of proximity of the campus in the Science and Technology Park. And we have had some thoughts about, and we would like to share it. In our 20 years of experience, you will see that there is a lot of this accumulated. So we have started from what define this regional development to the perspective of the region, or whatever, how we call Science and Technology Park or areas of innovation. There are some preconditions. One, it is location. It is in the town. It is in the vicinity of the, or it is in suburbs. The capacity of region, how many inhabitants. All these things are somehow preconditioned. The second is proximity of world-class science. Then access to talents. We were talking about talents, or they are living, they are coming. If you are Barcelona, they are all coming. The football players, let's say. The entrepreneurial culture is also important. Then, let's say, business supporting infrastructure, availability, then how the region is supporting with the tax incentives, and then access to customer, and then how big your market is for the talents that would like to exploit your capacity. So, for the Technology Park Ljubljana, we can say that it was designed already in 2000. The Urban Development Department of Ljubljana City designed such a location. We are talking about the location, about the campus now. On one side, we are having Technology Park. In the near vicinity, the Polytechnic, let's say, the campus for the faculties, natural-oriented faculties of the Ljubljana University, where they will move. Okay, we are having also a sleeping department. We are having the zoo. So we are all there, a good mixture of people and the rest of things, let's say, to have fun, and this is what is needed. So what campus represents, actually? It represents a destination, a spot on a global map. It is a specialization, and you should be there. Then campus represents also a space, a hub. Also headquarter of, let's say, Google has a hub. It's a big house. It's not just distributed. Yes, you should have a network. So we are working on also this. New spaces was set. So to adapt the quality of living and of working, it is changing. So we are having some crearum, so rooms for creating something. We introduced actually co-working spaces, or we said working spaces in the past. We open spaces, so whatever it is also for the well-being of people. We have apotheca, cafeteria, restaurant, bank, dentist, lawyers, whatever is needed. But this is of the campus, and an approach to that is because it is in the proximity. And the availability of all these things in one place is, let's say, somehow attracting also people that are working. So sustainability, visibility, credibility. If you are driving, you are looking at the edificio, so all objects there, and you see the name on area, science park, whatever, and you know that there is a certain development going on daily. And also is the policy's results. Let's say we said that it's a regional development tool, but it's also somehow the result of implemented policies for the regional development. They can show it also to the European Union, whatever the stakeholders were in behind. Then again, a concentration. The companies, startups, as I said, know-how, whatever. And then at the end, what is more important is now we are living in this era of sharing. Uber, Air, bed and breakfast, they don't have infrastructure, but they are sharing something, car sharing. And now having, let's say, this possibility, if you are living in one of these campuses, you can share. You can share offices, you can share the infrastructure, you can share IT equipment, and you are paying less somehow. At the end, in a new workflow, we will share also workers, we will work on a project. Several companies are working on a project and they are sharing workforce or experts or data center, whatever it is in behind. So the importance is also, let's say, from the tenant point of view, is this business to business, sharing the ideas, checking what you are thinking about. Somehow it is also prestige, quality of work you can develop here or in other places. Then is, again, destination for open system innovation-oriented companies, as I said. Bigger companies are coming to the technology park to see what technologies are there developed, or actually what the startups are doing in their field, or actually their development and the research department is located in the science and technology park, the production line or the production facility somewhere out of the city. So as I said, for the policymaker, also, let's say, exploitation of the school system. Universities should be in behind. Colleague Piquet was saying, what it is important also for the university, ricaduta, as they say in Italian, so closing the loop, where all these good engineers with diploma will land. If the university is producing, let's say, good astronauts, for sure in this region they will not find a job, so they will move. So this is also one of the tools that the ricaduta of the university work of the school system is somehow. Then for smart specialization, it's the concentration of know-how. A pilot program can testing, validation, and say a right mixture of, let's say, companies, startups, and entrepreneurs in one place for the implementing the strategies of smart specialization can be done there. Testing, piloting, For science and technology park and for RS innovation, this campus and proximity means, let's say, installing, selling services, visibility, we said already, credibility, trustability, and also the place where to invest. Investing means income. Income means self-sustainability. Okay, cost optimization, we already said this, sharing electric cars, bicycles. Here you can see we have invested in a new building, and that was sold out. We have invested in solar power plants, and some income is coming. We have invested in new parking place, so we are, and this means, let's say, somehow self-sustainability, and we are improving our income. Something you can, for this proximity, you can solve also with the founders. Let's say for the big and costly research equipment, it is good to have a research institute in behind. For all electronic microscopes, I don't know what kind of the research equipment they can have, but they are available, and the institutions, as our shareholders, are willing to share, but not just the equipment, they are willing to share also the staff skilled, let's say, to use this equipment. So, what we can say, established in 1995, with 3 main research institutes, and these are the results. Now we are having more than 300 members, more than 1,500 employees, and 11 national and local support programs, then 3.5 million yearly invested in 60 and plus startups annually, but this is not our money, this is money that comes from venture capital funds and Slovenian Entrepreneur Fund. And let's say we are involving more than 150 mentors for our startup coaches, and we are partnered in business support, and We are also members of global ISP and AA network, where more than 100 certified technology parks are actively involved. Our programs define us. Let's say in the startup, in the support services, they are developed for their global growth programs. And recently, we are also involved in developing business innovation ecosystem in this part of Southeast Europe, where we are collaborating with Belgrade, Zagreb, Zadar, Varaždin. There are some initiatives where we actually have competed with Area Science Park in Montenegro. They won for 2 points. Maybe they're too smart. Joking. Okay. What defines us also, national and international network. We are not just player in one city. We help, let's say, other cities and other mayors to develop their own facilities. Our partners, national, international partners, and let's say our references, this is what we have achieved. We have best practice in innovation policy in 2011, quoted by the OECD. ESP is, let's say, management best practice, European Science and Technology Management best practice. It was published in the European Commission. We have received a John Shield Award from the colleagues from Barcelona. And this year we are competing for the national nominee for Best Innovation Commercialization Environment in 2016. So, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for your patience.
Thanks, Istok, and lots of food for thought there, not least how to maintain our 2-point lead the next time we compete. But I'm happy to say that we collaborate as often as we compete, and both are very healthy and good for both of us. Our final speaker, who, because of our decision to anticipate the start, we have moved to the end of the slot, is Mauro Giacca. So I'll give Mauro a minute to connect his computer and set up his presentation. Mauro represents one of the two main pillars here in Aria Science Park. We already talked a little bit previously about elettrosinchrotron. Mauro represents ICGEB, the International Centre for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology, one of the premier institutions, not just here in the Science Park or here in Italy, but one of the premier research institutions Europe-wide and globally. Mauro has the honour, privilege, and I should think on a daily basis also headache of being the global director of ICGEB, which means that he is responsible not just for their activities here in the campus of Aria Science Park in Trieste, but also in New Delhi, in Cape Town in South Africa, and I believe in the future also in perhaps additional locations in Asia and elsewhere in the world. Mauro, the floor is yours.
So thank you very much. Thank you, Steve, for the very kind words, and thank you for hosting me in this session. I don't have any science park to proudly show, and actually, however, I run an institute that has been located inside the science park over the last 30 years. And in addition, it's an institute that has been operating for 30 years in a specific domain that has strong economic implications as well as science implication. And this institution is the International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology, which now is a United Nations type organization that operates in the field of molecular genetics and biotechnology, and does so with the support of over 60 countries that basically are represented here in blue and green, and include all countries in South America and Central America, 2/3 of countries in Africa, most countries in Asia, and also includes countries that 30 years ago were developing countries, but now they are China, Russia, South Africa, India, Brazil, and all the Eastern European countries and the Balkan countries who are also represented here. Basically, the idea of genetic engineering and biotechnology dates back to the 70s. This is the first academic publication. I bring you back for a moment to California, Stanford University, in the early 70s, where scientists for the first time did something that is very simple now. that is to take a piece of DNA from one organism and to put this piece of DNA into the genome of another organism, something that's called DNA cloning, and that's the basis of what had to become shortly and rapidly genetic engineering, which is just a science of cut and paste from one genome to another genome. Since DNA is the basis of genetic information of all human beings, it's very easy to conceive that a piece of DNA is moved from one organism to the other. The interesting thought that was behind the biotechnology concept was that if this piece of DNA contains the information to code for a product, then this product could be produced in any kind of organism. So if a gene coding for insulin of humans is transferred into a small organism, then this small organism will produce human insulin. And that was the birth of biotechnology in 1982. The first product that was developed in this manner was insulin. And now insulin serves 170 million diabetic people all over the world. And this is simply produced in small bacteria in indefinite amounts. Immediately after insulin, other products were generated, the growth hormone, interferon, the vaccine for hepatitis B, and then several others. Now there are basically more than 350 products obtained through genetic engineering that are in clinical use. Immediately afterwards, the concept of cut and paste was also based was applied to plants. The idea is exactly the same. We can modify the genome of plants to improve the nutritional quality of plants, to improve the capacity of plants to grow in a defined soil, and so on. And this was the birth of plant biotechnology. Plant biotechnology is not different conceptually from usual breeding and domestication of plants that dates back 10,000 years in the history of human cultural evolution. The difference is that instead of crossing and breeding plants for a desired characteristic, through genetic engineering, we simply introduce a gene that we want. Just to give you an idea of the potential of these technologies, this is a map of India from a satellite where you see green or red. These are the areas that are severely condemned to become completely sterile by the lack of water and the high salinity on the soil. And basically salinity and drought are two conditions that prevent the growth of rice and other crops. And through genetic engineering, it is possible to simply engineer, for example, rice plants to contain 1, 2, 3, even more genes that will permit these plants to continue growing under these conditions. For example, this is a rice plant that has been produced in our laboratories in New Delhi. Again, in the 70s, a scientist of Argentinian origin working in Cambridge generated a technology that permits the production of antibodies, so proteins of human origins, produce the immune system, each of which has exactly the same specificity. These are called monoclonal antibodies, and now they really represent the basis of all innovative therapies in human medicine, including and especially the field of cancer. If you look at the contribution of biotech to human health now, there are more than 350 million people worldwide with more than 200 approved biotech drugs. And there are about 200 diseases that are helped through these technologies. In economical terms, this is absolutely stunning, because if you take the 10 most profitable drugs that are currently in the market, this is a survey from a US marketing company, Vantage EP. If you take the 10 most profitable drugs, and the top one is a monoclonal antibody, it's called Humira. Alone, it sells $10 billion per year. Well, among the 10 top drugs, there are only 3 classical chemical molecules, and there are 7 biotechnological products, 5 monoclonal antibodies, and 3 drugs produced through genetic engineering. And then the idea of changing, moving genes, modifying them has moved from medicine to plants and also to microorganisms to have the environment for sanitation, for bioremediation, and more recently for the production of clean energy. So there is a vast array of opportunities that is offered by these technologies. To put this in perspective for our organization here in Trieste, we have developed over the year the facilities to produce a vast series of biosimilars, so genetically drugs produced through genetic engineering that has now expired their patent protection period. They include the interferons, erythropoietin, and insulin, and others. And we have signed agreements with 17 countries in the world, which are the countries depicted here in yellow and in green. And this is performed here in Trieste, while in Delhi we have had a very strong activity in developing the diagnostic kits, especially for viral diseases. So we have kits for malaria, for dengue, for HIV, for hepatitis C. For hepatitis C, there are more than 20 different kits that are sold in 40 countries in Asia, also through the World Health Organization, and all this is conducted with industrial partners. And we are now in the process of signing a very large agreement with the largest pharmaceutical biotech company in India, Sun Pharma, for the production of a vaccine against dengue. I'm showing this because I want to leave you with the concept that biotechnology is a field with strong economical value, a strong economical potential. But I want to extend this concept even further. These are the old biotechnology. From the 70s to now, basically, we can do whatever we want in terms of exploiting organisms to produce products that are of value for human health or human nutrition. But the new biotechnology have to do something that is even more important, because if you look worldwide, we are facing a real epidemic of degenerative disorders. If you take just simply the statistics in our countries, they indicate that there are more than 15 million people diagnosed with heart failure every year, with a number that is going to increase to 23 million according to the WHO by 2020. Now in Italy we live more than 80 years for men and more than 85 years for women, yet after 80 years 1 person out of 3 dies because of Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia. 170 million people suffer of diabetes. After 75 years of age, 1 person out of 3 doesn't see well because they have degeneration of the retina, and 1 person out of 2 doesn't hear well because they have degeneration of the inner ear. All what these degenerative conditions have in common is that they are due to the loss of cells from our body and the incapacity of the body to regenerate them. That's a tremendous problem because really there is no drug for these conditions, and the epidemic is really devastating in all the world now. In the big metropolitan cities of Asia and Africa, people die more of cardiovascular disorders, metabolic syndrome and diabetes than they used to die because of all the infectious diseases together, including HIV, malaria, or dengue. And we have really no clue against these conditions. And if you look at the development of classical drugs, so small molecules produced by the pharmaceutical company, over the last 20 years, there has been a progressive decline of new compounds. There is no treatment to regenerate beta cells that produce insulin in the pancreas, no treatment for retinal degeneration, no treatment for hearing loss. The last drugs that have been developed for heart failure, the biggest killer in the world, have been developed in the mid-90s. And the only possibility is that we take advantage of the new biotechnologies to treat these conditions. So the idea is to have these degenerated organs and inject into these organs something that might block degeneration and might even induce regeneration of the body. This something could be a gene, but gene now in biology doesn't mean simply a gene coding for a protein like in the 70s. but now a gene includes all kinds of nucleic acids, so including RNA, including small pieces of DNA, including inhibitors of these nucleic acids, includes proteins that are used as growth factors, pieces of proteins, and include obviously cells to replace the cells that have been lost during the degeneration. Just to give you an idea, now we are in the possibility of obtaining cells with stem cell function from embryos through different means, so which means that we can take any cell in the body of an individual, transform this into an embryonic stem cells, grow these cells, and convince these cells to become a cell of the heart, a cell of the liver, a cell of the brain. This is an incomplete list of clinical trials with small RNAs as drugs. So these are small pieces of RNA that are given to patients with infectious diseases or cancer, and very soon also for cardiovascular diseases to block their conditions. The problem here, and this is probably very pertinent to the discussion in this kind of audience, is who is going to take care of the development of these new biotechnologies. They clearly require a business model that is completely different from the business model that we have been exposed to so far. The big pharmaceutical companies like to develop small molecules. They are very good to develop chemical molecules, but they are very more inept to develop biological molecules, so which are big, difficult to produce, and usually the business model that has been successful so far in these aspects are that of creating small companies which are usually funded and directed by a small group of individuals, or perhaps the same scientist that has made the discovery. The technology is made through transfer directly from the academia of the discovery, and they require support in economical terms for their development. And support is really critical. It is estimated that so far one drug out of a number that is no less than 1,000, and according to some statistics is up to 5,000, can be developed up to the clinical success level. So it means that the vast majority of drugs fail. The cost for each drug, however, to reach the clinical phase is no less than 1 million euros, and the average time is no less than 10 years. How to finance these small initiatives, which are of paramount importance for the clinics? Well, the first financing step is very familiar, but then and there are a few public grants that can be assessed to, but then there is the strong need to find capital at risk that could support this kind of activities, which is first angel investors, and then venture capital, then you need partnering for large biotech companies. This is tremendously expensive. An early stage of a product for the preclinical phase in the pharmaceutical industries costs no less than 1-2 millions, and the clinical trial of phase 1, so on a small number of patients just for safety or preliminary data of efficacy, costs no less than 2-3 million. So it means that for an individual product to reach the clinic, you need from 2 to 4 million at least. Who's going to finance this? This is the key problem, and I think that it becomes also a key problem for the science park. We have heard a lot of science park providing services in terms of housing, in terms of hospitality for children, in terms of providing networking, in terms of providing instrumentation. I think that a key message that should be given is that science park should provide funding to startups, and this is very critical. If you want to follow this route, you could go, for example, to Singapore, where there are 6 venture capital funds that provide more than $48 million for startups. You could go to Finland, $145 million, to Israel, $450 million. However, you should not come to Italy, for example, which is the third from the bottom in terms of entrepreneurship. Italy, according to the latest statistics, has 1.3% of entrepreneurs as a percentage of the adult population, to be contrasted for example, with 13.8 in Brazil, and only Suriname and Puerto Rico has been less than that. And if you look at the number of startups, there are almost 600,000 startups in Brazil. There are 845,000 startups in the UK, and Italy and Indonesia, for example, have more or less the same number of startups. If you go simply in the periphery of London, in the UK, there are 250,000 startups. In Germany, in all the country, there are 125,000 startups. In Italy, there are only 5,000. So I think that if you want really to build on a science park, what you have to concentrate on is to provide these kind of services. So what a research institute needs in order to develop its own startups or to spin off its activity is IP consultancies, understanding what is the freedom to operate or the discoveries that are made in the laboratory. You need a patent office that might assist in patenting. You need some a professional service for business development, and then you need to find money for these startups. So initial economic support to the startups, finding a bridge to angels and venture capitals, and then when the company is successful, then to find a bridge to render the company of interest to the large pharma companies. I think this is the route that is important here for Italy, but it is important also for all the countries that are represented here. So my strong invitation from the point of view of the academics of the Resi Institute is not concentrate on services, but concentrate in finding money and helping scientists and innovators to bring their innovation to the market. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, Mauro. As ever, a stimulating presentation. If you'd like to take a seat next to me, you can remain with us for what I hope will be an equally stimulating debate. Mauro touched upon some important points. I'm always reminded when I listen to a presentation like that of what Kennedy famously said: ask not what you can do for your country, what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I think Mauro touched on both sides of that equation, because one of the reasons we were keen to invite Mauro to present was to show what an important research facility does for a science park. Because ICGB, over the years, over its 30 years here in Aria, has been a magnet for other public sector and private sector organisations, because recognition of their excellence in their area, their field of expertise, which has remained constant for 30 years as well, has been a driver to both public and private sector to come and be near them and to share in that experience and share in that expertise. So I personally believe that in all science parks and areas of innovation, there is a